Hello, thank you for joining me today. Well, this is the Wednesday, March 24th edition of our video devotionals, and we appreciate you joining us today, halfway through the work week, school week, and if you're able to attend Wednesday evening Bible study, I know that'll be great. We're going to kind of jump into things real quickly here because I have a personal story I want to tell with the passages that we're reading, but we're doing a spring theme. We've talked about the lily of the valleys, we've talked about the rose of Sharon, and today we're going to talk about Aaron's rod that budded, a very unique story. And so if you want to get your Bible, we're going to be in Numbers 17 today and read a few verses, but I'll give you the context here. Of course, the children of Israel at this point are not in the promised land, but they're not in Egypt. They've left Egypt, and now they're in that situation where they're 40 years in the wilderness. Well, Korah and the group of people that kind of aligned themselves with him confronted Moses about the leadership, and of course they were wrong, and of course Moses was upset about it, but he went to God, and God says, "Let me take care of this." So God provided very severe judgment against Korah and all that group. The earth actually opened up and swallowed them up, and so God made a strong statement there. In chapter 17, we find where God says, "I'm gonna confirm to you just the tribe of Levi." And that particular tribe and what their duties are, high priest and priest and so on. So I know I'm kind of condensing it here a lot, but let me go ahead and start reading here in chapter 17, verse 1. It says, "And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and take of every one of them a rod according to the house of their fathers, of all their princes, according to the house of their fathers, 12 rods, write thou every man's name upon his rod." And of course, of the tribe of Levi, then Aaron's name was written on the rod. So you got 12 rods, basically like 12 staves, okay? We get down to verse number 6, "And Moses spake unto the children of Israel, and every one of their princes gave him a rod apiece, for each prince one, according to their fathers' houses, even 12 rods, and the rod of Aaron was among the rods. And Moses laid up the rods before the Lord in the tabernacle of witness." And notice verse 8 here, a very unique, a miracle, of course, but this is where God intervened, and he's making a big statement here. "And it came to pass that on the morrow Moses went into the tabernacle of witness, and behold, the rod of Aaron for the house of Levi was budded, and brought forth buds, and bloomed blossoms, and yielded almonds." Now we're talking about a staff, and this thing's got the leaves, it's budded out, it's blooming, and it's got almonds on it. So that's obviously a miracle where God takes basically like a dead stick, if you please, and causes that thing to come to life. So it was obviously a very powerful statement where God was saying, "This is the leadership I've instituted, Levi, the tribe of Levi, and Aaron's house, and all of that." So I think most of you understand that. Let me give you a personal story that I think goes along with this, that I take from this, and something that I learned as a boy. I was about somewhere out between the age of 10 to 13. I don't remember exactly how old I was, but I was not real young, but I wasn't, I don't think, a teenager yet. If I was, it was just barely a teenager. But we attended Ashland Street Bible Baptist Church in Archdale, North Carolina, and our pastor was Bill Watson. One of my heroes. Bill Watson actually still pastors at Little Mountain Baptist Church in Ararat, North Carolina, so he's one of my heroes. Well, he was my pastor. I was saved under his ministry. He baptized me in a little lake, as he did others, and so matter of fact, my uncle married his daughter Kathy. Of course, still married to my uncle Barry. He pastors at Amity Hills Baptist Church in Asheboro. Now, going back to this, either Sunday night or Wednesday night, Brother Bill, he went over and he started he started reading the church covenant that was up on. It would have been over where the piano was, up on a wall, quite large, and he began to read that. And as he was reading that, I don't remember if he couldn't see it well or he stumbled across a few words. I don't remember, but he was reading that. And of course, we had our service, and then the service ended. Well, his custom was to stand at the back door and shake people's hands like a lot of preachers do. We were filing out, and as I got to him, I shook his hand, and I said something like something to this effect. I don't remember exactly, but I said something to the effect, "Boy, you had a little bit of trouble with that, didn't you?" And I just kind of walked on through the line, didn't think much about it. And I don't remember what he said, and I really don't remember what I said, but it was something to the effect that as he was reading that, I noticed he struggled with it. I'll put it that way. Well, when we got home, and it was customary for us to leave late, we were one of the last ones to leave, always hung around and talked to people, and And Brother Bill was usually one of the last ones to leave to him and his family. So anyway, so I get home and my mother says to me, and this is probably about 9 o'clock at night, she said, let me ask you something. Did you say something to Brother Bill about how he read, how he was reading the church covenant? And I said, I must have said, yeah, I did. And she said, well, what did you say? And I don't remember if I told her what I said or she said, well, let me tell you what I was told that you said. Now, I don't know who told her. I don't know if she was standing in line and she heard me say it. I don't know if even Brother Bill said something to her, but here's basically how it went down. She says, I'm going to tell you one thing. We don't ever correct the preacher, something to that effect. She says, as a matter of fact, you're going to call him up right now and you're going to apologize. Now, bear in mind, this was later at night, not super late, but late enough to where you wasn't making phone calls to people. But she says, you're going to call him right now and you're going to apologize. I was super embarrassed, and by this time I'm sure I was crying, because I remember when I was talking to him, I was just crying. Anyway, she dials his number and she says, Keith has something he needs to tell you. And man, I get on the phone and I begin to apologize for either making fun or correcting him, whatever it was. And of course, he just kind of said, well, that's okay, it's fine and all that. And then she got on the phone and started talking to him. And by that time, I was just super humiliated. But let me tell you something. I'm guessing I was probably around the age of 10, 11, 12, 13. I'm so glad my mother did that. I'm so glad that I learned a lesson right then that that's the Lord's man. Now, here I sit, I'm a pastor. And I've been pastoring for a good while now, and I don't say this because I'm a pastor. I say it because as I look at the story that we just read there and look at how God stepped in and made the statement about that, I'm glad as I've grown older and before I ever became a pastor that my respect for preachers, the men of God, is a great respect. And even to this day, as a pastor, even when someone has legitimately we'll use the term blown it in the ministry. We're talking about preachers. I still am very hesitant to say anything about, as David put it, God's anointed. And that's why he would not slay Saul, even though Saul was out to take David's life. But on 2 occasions, David said, I'm not going to do that. And it's going to be in God's hands. So I'll just say this. It's amazing how many things that are in God's hands. But in that particular case, I learned a lesson as a young boy that I wouldn't do that. And I've always remembered that. And I'm glad my mother taught me that. And I love Brother Bill to this day. He probably wouldn't even remember it. And but it doesn't matter. I'm just glad that at our house we didn't need the preacher for any meals. We didn't sit around and correct and critique. We just didn't do that. You can take that any way you want. I'm just telling you, to be honest with you, I didn't really want to even go there with this and hadn't even planned on it. But as I thought about it, I said, you know what, this is going to maybe do somebody a favor. It certainly did me a favor. It just made me realize that God has a plan. God will take care of whatever he needs to take care of, and we'll let God do that. And boy, I just remember how clean I feel when I and generally speaking, I'm just not a critic like that. And it was good for me. So maybe it'll be good for you. I know I took a little bit extra time today on that, but I think most of you understand where we're coming from, and from the story, putting the two together, maybe you'll understand that. But it taught me a lesson, and I'm glad I learned it. And to this day, I remember it, and I try to live by that. So I hope you have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow on Thursday, and I hope you have a great day.